tells us that a person is not allowed to say the Shema in front of nakedness, in front of someone's private parts. It would be asur to say the prayer of the Shema in front of that. So therefore, a person has to cover it in order to say the prayer of the Shema. And the Gemara in the Brachot Chav Hey Amud Bet discusses about somebody laying down in a blanket. He has no clothes on, and he's wearing a blanket. Is he allowed to say the Shema just by covering himself with the blanket? So the Gemara brings a machloket in the opinions, in the argument of opinions in the Gemara. One opinion says yes. One opinion says no, because it's not enough that he's covered. It has to be that there's a separation between his chest and his lower half of his body, his private part. So therefore, the Gemara says that he has to make a separation between his two parts of his body. And the Gemara says, according to the second opinion, it will be asur even if you're covered with a blanket, because he has no covering separated. And the Rif, the Tosafot, the Rif, the Rosh, the Rambam, they all follow like the opinion that you have to have a separation between the top of your body and the bottom of your body, and that's what Maran writes in Siman Ayin Dalet. For example, the very common today, a person wearing a robe. He wears a robe, and there's nothing under, and he has no belt for the robe, he still would not be allowed to say Shema, or the Mishnah Berurah explains words of Torah, or any prayers, any brachot, because it's considered that he's saying the blessings in front of nakedness, because his chest is exposed to his lower half. So therefore, if you wear a robe with nothing under, a person would have to make sure to have a belt, have a strap that is separating between the top half and the lower half of his body. The Gemara in Masechet Brachot Chav Daled also tells us tefach beisha erva. The Gemara says that a tefach of exposed nakedness of a woman is also considered nakedness. The Gemara says, what is this talking about? It's talking about somebody seeing another lady's nakedness. The Gemara says that's asur, and even if it will be your pinky finger, the Gemara says it's looking at a woman to derive pleasure, and looking at her pinky finger is the same thing as looking at her private parts. Therefore, it's for sure asur. The Gemara says, no, we're talking about where a person's looking even at his wife. Even at his wife, he's still not allowed to say the Shema if he sees a tefach of revealed nakedness. So therefore, the Gemara says that a person cannot see if he sees exposed skin of something of a woman that his wife that usually is not exposed. You're not allowed to say the Shema in front of that. That's also considered nakedness. The Gemara says that the hair of a woman that's usually covered and it's uncovered, that's also considered nakedness. You cannot say Shema in front of that. The Gemara says the thigh of a woman is also considered something that has to be covered, and therefore, if it's exposed, you cannot see the Shema in front of it. It's looking at it. And a woman's thigh has to be covered with the skirt, and even the calf has to be covered with stockings. So, and the Gemara says also that the kol be'isha erva, the voice of a woman singing, is also considered nakedness. A person cannot say the Shema while listening to a lady sing, and in general, that's inappropriate to listen to a lady sing. So therefore, all these things, the Gemara says, are also considered nakedness, and that's what Shulchan Aruch writes in Siman Ayin Hey. And a person cannot say Shema when he's exposed to all these things. What do? There are many situations where a person has to make bracha, and there are people who are not dressed appropriately in front of him. There might be a lady who is not dressed appropriately, she's exposing things, part of her body that she's not supposed to expose. So over there, the Mishnah Berurah and many others, including Yakut Yosef, discuss the leniency of closing the eyes or turning away in order to be able to say the bracha, or to be able to say the Shema, or to say whatever prayer they need to say. Many times at a chuppah, it can be that there's someone not dressed appropriately, and the rabbis, they always used to take the sidur and cover their face in the sidur to read the brachot from the sidur in order that they shouldn't be exposed and looking at those parts that were supposed to be covered. So therefore, a person has to make sure that if he wears a robe, he wears a belt, and to make sure that he's not looking at all those things that are considered nakedness in order to be able to say the Shema properly. There's a story in the Gemara Sechet Avodah Zarah, Daf Yud Aleph, about Onkelos Hager. Onkelos, we know, he wrote the Aramaic translation for the Chumash, and he was originally Roman. He was the nephew of Emperor Hadrian. So therefore, he eventually left and became a Jew, and his uncle wanted to get him back and bring him back. He sent soldiers to bring Onkelos back. So every time these soldiers would come, he would convert them. He would convert the soldiers also to Judaism. So he sent another group of soldiers to bring Onkelos, and he told them, don't talk to him. Don't talk to him anything. I don't want the same thing to happen again. So he goes and he speaks to them and he tells them while he's walking with them. He says, how does it work in the Roman army? Who walks in front holding the candle, holding the torch? He said the soldiers, and the king is in the back. He says, and by the Jewish people, you should know the Torah says the opposite. And it says, in the Jewish people were in the desert, Hashem, with the fire, would lead them at night. He would go in front and they would follow the fire. Hashem, the king, is leading the people. They would say, wow, that's unbelievable, such a beautiful idea, and he would convert them to Judaism. Finally, the king, Emperor Hadrian, sends another group, a third group, and he says, don't talk to him anything. Don't say one word to him. So they didn't talk to him one word, they just said, you have to come with us. And when he was leaving the door, he touched the mezuzah and he kissed it. And they asked him, why did you do this? He says, by regular Roman army, what happens? The guards stand outside and the king is in the house. By us, in the Judaism, we see that the Hashem is the one who stands guard by the door with the mezuzah, and the Jewish people, his people, are inside the building. So therefore, he converted them based on this beautiful darash, and they also were converted, and it ended up being that the Emperor Hadrian gave up. He said, there's no point in sending more people, he's going to convert everybody. So therefore, we should realize how much chesed HaKadosh Baruch Hu does for us, how much he loves us, how much he guards us, and we should go out of our way to do for him like he goes out of his way. We go above our nature, he will go above